Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel now. First and foremost, before we get into what I want to talk about here, regarding my last video that I made about Dr. Disrespect, I appreciate all the support that y'all gave me on that video, but at the same time, I have noticed that a lot of you guys have thrown at me some negative feedback, especially regarding my opinion on the situation. You know, accusing me of cancel culture, exploiting news stories for views, exploiting the downfall of a content creator, which, by the way, I am a fan of. Now, I did forget to mention in that video that allegations are allegations, and these are serious allegations, and I shouldn't jump to conclusions based on some of the evidence that we have. I put out a statement on the community tabs, and I do apologize for anybody that I did end up pissing off. I will update you guys later on once we get new evidence that either proves innocence or guilt. And if he is innocent and he in fact did nothing wrong, I will put out a video and I will admit that I'm wrong and I will apologize for it. I did also say that stories like these need to involve the police and not cancel culture. Even directly called out cancel culture and said that, you know, the victim and their family should go to the police and get an investigation going just so we can gather more evidence, because again, these are serious allegations. But, you know, I don't want to talk about this story anymore. You know, it is what it is. I said what I said, and there are things that I do say and opinions that I do have that will inevitably piss people off, and I have accepted that. But either way, I'm human, and if I'm wrong, I will admit it and I will address it later on in a follow-up video. But until new evidence comes out, I will stand by my opinion. Anyways, let's drop this topic entirely, sweep all the negativity aside, and move on to like more fun and lighthearted stuff, which I believe the vast majority of you guys will enjoy and agree with me on, because I just want to make you guys happy, because that's the way we do things around here, and that's my mission for y'all. So stick around, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, turn those noties on, because I'm your news guy. That's what I do around here. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different around here. So, you know, I don't normally usually talk about sports here on the channel, right? Yes, I did that one live stream where I was streaming the NFL draft. Thought that was a pretty good time and experience. Had a lot of fun there. But, you know, outside of that, I never really thought of, you know, creating a video of this format where I'm just talking about sports or doing sports-related videos. Normally, I keep it to like political analysis, internet drama, video games, current events, stuff like that. Usually, I keep the sports stuff to my Twitter. But a lot of you guys, you know, maybe you do already know, or maybe you don't know, but I'm a huge sports fan. I do follow all four of the major North American sports: football, baseball, basketball, hockey. But I am especially a huge soccer fan, or football as some of you might call it. But I am a US soccer fan myself, and I do follow the US men's national team. And we were the host nation of this year's Copa América tournament of South America, and we were partaking in this tournament. And there were also 5 other North American countries that were also partaking in it as well. You know, Canada, Jamaica, Mexico, Panama, and Costa Rica were also partaking in Copa América as well. But the US men's national team was also in this tournament and were the host nations of Copa América. And despite having one of the easiest groups that they can even ask for, they just became the first host nations of the tournament to be knocked out of the group stages. Let me repeat, at home, as a host, they were just grouped after they just unnecessarily lost to Panama and Uruguay. And I kind of just want to talk about this because I got some words for this team and this federation, especially our fraud manager, Gregg Berhalter. I got a couple things that I want to say about this. Now, the year is 2024, and this is by far the most popular soccer has ever become in this country. You've just made the World Cup for the first time since 2014, with an even better and more improved roster than you had last time around. Lionel Messi finally wins the World Cup and cemented himself as the greatest, not just the greatest soccer player, but the greatest athlete known to man. you are poised to be the next host of the next World Cup in 2026. You're also the host nation of Copa América 2 years later. After finally winning his World Cup, Messi then comes to the United States, signs with Inter Miami and plays in MLS, gets more people involved and helps grow the sport in the country. 2022 being one of the best World Cups ever, labor controversies aside. I mean, with all these things transpiring, it's just no secret that soccer has become more popular than it ever was even like 20, 30 years ago. You know, the rise of Alexi Lalas, the start of MLS, the 1994 World Cup, even including when Pele had a little stint with the New York Cosmos. But even then, soccer still kind of has been a little bit of a backseat type of sport in the US. You know, it's always the baseballs and the footballs and the Super Bowls, World Series, basketball and hockey. The four major North American sports, as they are called. After the 94 World Cup and Lalas and the formation of MLS, soccer has started to pick up steam here in the United States. And this is coming from someone who has family members who are all soccer fans themselves. We watch it on the TV, we watch the World Cup every time it happens, we watch Euro every time it happens, I watch the Premier League every year and La Liga. Arsenal and Barcelona are my favorite clubs. So I am a soccer fan myself and never really thought it would ever surpass, the popularity of even baseball and hockey. But it wasn't until I would say the 2014 World Cup where I was starting to notice its popularity start to, uptick a little bit. Back when you already had guys like Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey, Josie Altidore, Tim Howard, Julian Green. But then came the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, and that's really when I seriously started to notice soccer starting to legitimately become taken very seriously here. Like our national team are all playing in Europe. We got a boatload of talented young guys on the team, very talented roster. Then we got Messi coming here to Inter Miami right after when he wins the World Cup. We're hosting Copa América. We're gonna host a World Cup in 2 years. So there's obviously a lot to be excited for. But unfortunately, this tournament that we are hosting has been nothing but a complete and total disappointment after what I just witnessed. And we were eliminated from the Copa América in the group stages at home. Obviously, we lost to Panama 2-1, an easily winnable game that was pissed away. And we also lost to Uruguay 1-0, despite being the better team in the first half. Well, at least in some parts of the match. And to be fair, it would have been a lot less disappointing if a couple of things, didn't happen throughout some of these matches. You feel me? Tim Weah sucker punched a Panamanian player and got red carded out of the match, resulting him from getting suspended 2 matches, including the one against Uruguay. And speaking of which, that ref from that one match was being nothing but a complete imbecile and missing a bunch of calls, letting the players play on while someone was down on the pitch when the foul was actually called. Gregg Berhalter being a complete dumbass and subbing out Balogun for Pepe when we needed goals. Pepe couldn't even find the back of the goddamn net with every match that he has played in throughout this tournament. Panama, by the way, was one of the most winnable games out of all the losses that we have experienced in this tournament. Tim Weah red card aside, that game was still winnable. They're not even that good of a team. Meanwhile, we're just putting out guys like Josh Sargent and Cameron Carter-Vickers and changing up the formation because one guy got red carded instead of actually trying to adjust and bring in guys that will actually get you offense. And Uruguay, on the other hand, yeah, I get it. They got some talent. Araujo is a really solid defender. And by solid, I mean, come on, try watching this dude in Barcelona. That motherfucker is a goddamn animal. But at the same time, even though you got guys like Araujo and Nunez having the games of their lives, there were some mistakes that I have noticed on the side of Uruguay. I've noticed sometimes where players turn the ball over and give US chances to score, and later on, this will hurt Uruguay in the near future against teams like Brazil and Argentina, and even Colombia for that matter. If Uruguay keeps turning the ball over and giving the ball away, it will end up haunting them. The US had many chances because of that, and they still could not capitalize. It also doesn't help that Uruguay were also being physical with their guys. They were going after Pulisic, they were going after Adams, they were going after McKennie, Gio Reyna was also being attacked. this was a pretty physical match at times. And there was even the point where the match between Panama and Bolivia was tied, and we had to keep the game tied, and we would still be able to move on. Because of the way groups work, tiebreakers are usually based off of goal differential. And the US had that advantage against Panama despite losing to them earlier. So even if that Panama-Bolivia match was tied, and we end up drawing against Uruguay shortly afterwards, we would have still moved on. So we were still in second place at one point. And then, as soon as you know it, right when Bolivia ties the game, Uruguay scores. And you know, at some angles, it does look like the goal was offside. In fact, they even called up the VAR to see whether or not that goal was offside. However, the goal was allowed because of Chris Richards' positioning, allowing for some of the Uruguay players to remain onside as that goal was scored. And then moments later, after Uruguay scored, Panama then gets 2 goals back, which essentially dug the US into a deeper hole, meaning that they need to score 2 goals and end up winning that match just so they can move on. They, of course, failed to accomplish that. And obviously, the fault of this lies on Gregg Berhalter, our manager. Here's why. This is a team that is completely and fully loaded with talent. Christian Pulisic, Florian Balogun, Gio Reyna, Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, Anthony Robinson, Tim Ream, Chris Richards, Joe Scally, and Matt Turner as your goalkeeper. Like, that right there was the starting 11 against Uruguay. Now, obviously, Tim Weah is supposed to be on that main roster, but decided to be an asshole and punch the dude for no reason. But still, even with that starting 11, that is enough talent to even compete with the top 10 in the world, and at the very least, be competitive against teams like Uruguay. Now, I already knew that we weren't beating Uruguay in the group. They were pretty much winning it hands down. But at the same time, you were in what is still considered pretty much a cakewalk group. Both the US and Uruguay were supposed to make it out of this group. Any other result aside from that would be an upset. I get that Panama should not be underestimated, but even though every now and again they can eke out a win or two, or pull off an upset, they're still not that good of a team. They've already made it out of the group because of the US's incompetence. And trust me, the quarterfinals is as far as they can go. Good luck playing against a team like Colombia or Brazil. And Bolivia is only in this tournament because they are a country in South America and ergo a member of CONMEBOL. If the continent was big enough and had more countries, or if CONCACAF and CONMEBOL merged into one super confederation, which, to be fair, they should, and you actually had to qualify just to partake in the competition, 99% of the time, they are not making it. So they are literally often seen as the punching bag of CONMEBOL, unless they're playing at home because their capital city, La Paz, has an altitude that is just under half the height of Mount Everest. And if you divide the height of Mount Everest by 2, that goes to show you how high La Paz is from sea level. The US was placed in this group, and both their floor and ceiling of that group was second place. They had a home advantage and an easy group, and they still got grouped. I think the real warning sign that I have noticed of what to expect with this US men's national team in Copa América was that Colombia game, which, by the way, it was a friendly, and we lost that game 5-1. 5-1! 5-1! With all of our guys, and not even Colombia's best squad, a friendly at home, we were fucking dismantled. That may have been the wake-up call of what was to come in the Copa América. It doesn't matter how easy the group was going to be, that should have been the sign that Berhalter was not the right guy to lead. Then, once the tournament started, they only scored 2 goals against Bolivia. That game against Bolivia should have been 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, hell, maybe even 7-0. Nope, 2-0 against a shit Bolivia team was good enough. And with all 3 of these group matches combined, they only scored 3 goals in all these 3 matches combined. Just 3 goals scored. I'm sorry, but only scoring 3 goals in the group? We should be scoring much more than that, since you are capable of doing so. especially with the talent that you have on your goddamn roster, and especially with the group that you're in, a group that contains both Panama and Bolivia. You should have scored at least one against Uruguay, even if you were destined to lose anyway because of how good they are. Nobody expected you to win against Uruguay anyway, but at least be competitive and at least try to score. You literally had no chances, no scoring chances against Uruguay in that match. And you should have won that match against Panama. That whole thing with, Berhalter making all of these substitutions in the start of the second half, literally inviting Panama to attack and have all these chances, inviting Panama to score, which they did, which costed you the game, alongside Tim Weah's red card. And even with Tim Weah on the pitch, they absolutely had no answers against Panama. Like, zero. None. None whatsoever. They had no answers against Panama. They had no answers against Uruguay. Not enough answers against Bolivia. Terrible tactics, boring play, bad or wrong substitutions, chicken shit formations, questionable decisions. Just all of this combined is what caused this to happen and why we are in this position to begin with. And Gregg Berhalter deserves ridicule. No, it is not on the players. This is a talented team on paper. All of what just happened is entirely on coaching. They even got outcoached by the Netherlands, even though they were going to get their asses kicked by Argentina anyway had they won. But still, it literally showed that the dudes' tactics were not going to slide against the top teams. There was no reason to barely grind your ass and win against Iran. There was no reason you should draw against Wales. And that match against England? Gareth Southgate shares a brain cell with Gregg Berhalter. They're both just as big as imbeciles. That was just a completely unwatchable game. And then we move on to Copa América. They should have scored more than 3 goals against Bolivia, and they only won 2-0. Had they won in a much bigger margin, I think they would have gotten a lot more confidence against some of these other matches that they were going up against, like Panama and Uruguay. They've only scored a total of 3 goals in all 3 matches combined. Bolivia was outscored by 2 against Panama and by 5 against Uruguay, and just 2 in the US. There was just no reason for the US to not make it out of the group. There's no excuses. None. Gregg Berhalter has been nothing but a complete and total goddamn fraud throughout his entire career, and he should have never been rehired. And the only reason why he was rehired is because both the Federation and the players thought that he was a good guy. That's it. They didn't care about tactics. They didn't care about skill. They didn't care about experience. They only cared about how good of a person he is. Okay, yeah, he's a great person. That's a plus. But there are plenty of managers out there who are all good people that would have had more experience and actually had better qualifications to lead this team. That's really how it should be. How good the person is, what are their tactics, what are their accomplishments and their achievements, and what are their qualifications. By the way, not every coach or manager has to be like a nice, good person. Believe me, there are a lot of coaches and managers out there who are known to be pieces of shit, but all of which are literally one of the most successful coaches of all time. I can list a bunch of them. Don Shula, John Cooper, Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin, Pat Riley, Phil Jackson, Greg Popovich, Jurgen Klinsmann, Tata Martino, Pep Guardiola, Paul Maurice, John Tortorella especially. Those are some of the all-time greatest coaches and managers of history. They weren't the nicest people. Even sometimes they were even considered pieces of shit. But they actually got shit done. Hell, I can even put Eric Spoelstra, Andy Reid, and Mike McDaniel on there as well. They're practically the same thing. But at least, they're nice dudes and they have bubbly personalities and a sense of humor. And not every great coach has that. So basically hiring Gregg Berhalter back on the team only because he's a nice guy is just ignorant and absurd. Gregg Berhalter has achieved nothing, absolutely nothing, in his whole entire coaching and managerial career. He's achieved nothing. This is not on the players. Again, this is a very talented team. All of these players are playing in Europe, and not just some random no-name Kakamimi league. No, these dudes are actually in some of the top 5 leagues in all of Europe. I've seen Christian Pulisic play in Serie A. That dude plays so well in AC Milan. And I'm not even an AC Milan fan. I'm just watching it because I like Christian Pulisic. He's one of my favorite players on the team. Look at Weston McKennie and Tim Weah in Juventus. So yes, you do have a roster that is filled with so much talent, being one of the most successful teams in US soccer history. Every single one of these players are capable of being superstars, especially with how they are all playing in all of the top leagues in Europe. Coaching is really the only major issue here, and you just got grouped at home in a major international tournament in, quite frankly, the most humiliating way possible. This is pretty much just as humiliating as the time we got knocked out of the World Cup because we couldn't win against Trinidad. This is bad. This is really bad. It's awful, mediocre, mid, anemic. It's just completely horrific. Like, it was bad enough that you got completely outcoached in the round of 16 in the 2022 World Cup against the Netherlands. And again, don't get me wrong, the Netherlands are very good. It was bad enough that you barely made it out of the group in 2022. You literally had to barely win against Iran just so you can make it out of the group. And you got absolutely destroyed at home in a friendly by Colombia. And on top of that, to top it all off with a cherry on top, you get grouped in the Copa América. And you're already getting people like Landon Donovan, Alexi Lalas, and Clint Dempsey all complaining about it. When Alexi Lalas is going off on the US men's national team about how soft and toothless their coaching is, it's over. That right there is when you know it's over. And Clint Dempsey even said it best. This is our golden generation. And this is the time where we need to at least make some noise and show how good we are and show off all the talent that we have. And instead, we're just sitting here making ourselves look like the soccer equivalent of the San Jose Sharks, where you have all this talent on the team, we're expected to at least make a deep run or win at least one tournament, and instead, we just underachieve year after year after year, despite having one of the most talented rosters out there. Take a look at Belgium and their golden generation, with players like Romelu Lukaku, Kevin De Bruyne, Moussa Dembele, Fellaini, Witsel, and even Hazard. They had not won a single tournament with that exact golden generation. And to be fair, their golden generation is dead now. They pissed it all away because of bad mistakes and bad managerial mistakes. They've done nothing with it. So are you going to sit here and you're going to continue to ride with Gregg Berhalter into the 2026 World Cup at home after you pull a stinker like this? Nobody is going to take you seriously. Nobody will take you seriously if you keep Berhalter around and lose just like that in the World Cup. That would genuinely be the biggest embarrassment ever if you end up getting grouped at your own home in the World Cup with that talented of a roster. Qatar at least had no expectations. They were not a good team. They were in this competition because they were hosting it. Meanwhile, the US, on the other hand, are literally one position shy from being a top 10 team in the FIFA rankings. They're number 11, literally one position shy away from the top 10. That's how good they are. They should be able to, at the very least, compete against some of the top 10 teams. They have the capability to do so. All I'm saying is, at this point, cut the strategic shit. Because clearly none of your strategic shit has worked to build this team and make it successful. We have all the talent on the team, and there's just no excuse for them to be underachieving like this. We are not Belgium. This is not the San Jose Sharks. Make a goddamn statement. Sack Gregg Berhalter. He is not going to get you anywhere. Fire him, get somebody in there who is experienced, and actually make a statement. Make big changes in the federation if you have to. Fire people and hire people and maybe even get better management. Like, actual statements. Because the World Cup is only 2 years away. 2026, that should be the time where every player is in their prime, and we should be able to defeat the Colombias, to defeat the Uruguays, and the Brazils, the Croatias, the Italys, the Englands of the world. And even if they're too good, like France, Spain, or Germany, at least show some competition against those teams and come out with a draw if you have to, and make a statement. The US should be good enough by this point to do any of that. We don't want to go into 2026 and be humiliated. We cannot afford to be grouped at our own home on the biggest stage in the world. There's absolutely no excuse for that. I've been watching all of these tournaments that have been going on. And usually I like to look at the trajectory of certain national teams based on how they are performing and how they do and what that means moving forward. Like, I've been watching a lot of the Euro lately, and Christ on a stick, have you seen some of these teams that have been playing in the Euro lately? I mean, there's a lot of great national teams that are out there right now that have great young players and high-end talent. And they're going to be fucking priming so hard in the 2026 World Cup. Like Spain, for example, they have so many good youngsters like Lamine Yamal, Pedri, Gavi, Nico Williams, who I guarantee will be wearing a Barcelona shirt after this tournament. Then you have Brazil, who have Vini Jr., Rodrigo, Paqueta, Rafinha, and Martinelli. Uruguay's got Ronald Araujo, Federico Valverde, Darwin Nunez, Luis Suarez might still be on the team. You move on to Argentina, they got Julian Alvarez, Leandro Paredes, Enzo Fernandez. Messi probably will still be playing. Emiliano Martinez, who is just an absolute monster of a goalkeeper. That motherfucker can shut down any penalty you throw at him. Germany's got Kai Havertz, Jamal Musiala, and the wunderkind Florian Wirtz. England, they're going to be having Harry Kane, Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka, Jude Bellingham, Harry Maguire, and who knows, maybe Gareth Southgate might be sacked by then. Look at all these rosters that I have named from all of these different national teams. Those teams are going to be really fucking good coming into the 2026 World Cup. If you stick with Gregg Berhalter as your head coach, despite all the talent you have, you are not going to be moving the needle with this team and the future of soccer in this country whatsoever. You cannot continue to have Gregg Berhalter on the team at this point. We need somebody with actual experience to get us into the next step forward. We need something like we need Tata Martino. We need Jurgen Klopp. We need Jose Mourinho, Xavi Hernandez, Pep Guardiola. Like, we need somebody. Anybody can be an upgrade over Gregg Berhalter. Anybody. I don't care who it is. Any of these names would be an upgrade over Berhalter. Because Gregg Berhalter should not be our future. He is mid at best. Fire that useless manager and let's get a real manager. Somebody with experience in there for once. But as always, I like to hear your thoughts about Berhalter in the comment section down below, as I always, at the end of every video, end the conversation down to you. What do you guys think? Do you think coaching is the reason why we got grouped in the Copa América? Do you think this is all on the players? Do you think this is on the coach? Do you think that this is on the federation? Who is the blame for all our woes? What do we need to improve on before the World Cup starts in 2 years? What do you think we need to do? What different players would you put on? Who do you think should replace Gregg Berhalter? Do you think it should be Jurgen Klopp? Do you think it should be Tata Martino? Jose Mourinho? Do you think the US Soccer Federation needs a complete and total overhaul? Anyways, guys, as always, I like to hear all your thoughts in the comment section down below. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you're new around here, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the little notification bell. Be sure to follow me on all my social medias. Links are in the description below. Share this video around with your friends, families, boyfriends, girlfriends, enemies, whomever. Definitely helps me out a lot, helps the video grow, and helps grow the channel if you were to share this video with whomever you know. So yeah, as you can tell, I decided to do something a little bit different by talking a little bit about sports because, you know, I have a reason to rant, especially about the US men's national team after getting knocked out in the Copa América. So, you know, I just had to put something out there, you know, vent my feelings, vent all my frustration out, because I'm pretty sure a lot of US soccer fans feel exactly the same way I do, especially towards Berhalter. Things need to change, and they need to change real soon. But again, as I mentioned, I like to hear your thoughts and your solutions down in the comments below. But anyways, guys, like, subscribe, ring notifications, and until then, take care, talk soon, and I'll see you guys in the next one. You're awesome.